Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Mikki Costa. I'm the director of Ocean First Institute, and I'm here today to host a webinar about one of my favorite things in the world, and that is the hammerhead shark. So today I'll be talking about hammerhead sharks, their history, why they have the weird head shape, and what does that mean for them. So what I'll be doing today is sharing my screen and sharing that story of the hammerhead with you. But before I do, I just wanted to let you know I'm the director of Ocean First Institute. We are a nonprofit organization based in Boulder, Colorado, and our mission is ocean conservation through research and education. So we go into the field and do research on marine species and bring those stories back to students all over the world. And today, with no exception, we'll be talking about the hammerhead shark and some of the research that I've done on that shark in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by sharing my screen. So bear with me for 1 second while I get that started. Okay, let's see here. Great. All right, so again, welcome to the webinar, and I'll go ahead and get started. So first, I just want to tell you a little bit about how I got interested in sharks in the first place. I grew up in the mountains of Colorado, spent a lot of time as a young person in nature, learning all about animals and really enjoying being outside. And things changed a little bit for me when I was about 7 years old. I went and saw the movie Jaws, which is all about sharks, and it's very scary. And that movie changed my life. I was so afraid of sharks after that movie. I thought they were under my bed, under the kitchen table. I tried out for the swim team and I made it because little did the coach know I was swimming from sharks coming out of the drain. So I had this really tremendous fear of sharks, and I had no idea how to get over it. And I started to read about sharks. And the more I read about sharks, the more I realized they were not the monsters that they're made out to be in the movies. But in fact, they really are amazing animals with a fantastic history, and I was hooked for life. And so I have been researching sharks and studying sharks since that time, and have really come to admire them and understand how important they really are for a healthy ocean. And today I'm so excited that I get to share my understanding of sharks and my passion for sharks with you. And so as I got a little bit older, I moved to Florida and I became a scuba instructor. And what an amazing job that was, to be able to go into the ocean every day as a diver and take people with me to be able to swim next to sharks and to see all that was happening under the ocean firsthand. And I did that for a number of years, and it opened up some other doors for me to become a researcher. And so I went back to school in Florida and I became a shark doctor. I got a PhD asking questions about sharks, things like how do they find each other underwater? How do they reproduce? What are their sensory systems like? Can they see in color? Why do hammerheads have the weird head shape? So I've been able to work with researchers all over the world asking some very basic questions about sharks and how they work. So now, I think it's important when we talk about sharks to really put it into context with the passage of time. So our universe is thought to be over 14 billion years old, and our planet Earth over 4.6 billion years old. And when we look at our planet from space, you see it really is planet ocean. Our planet has water, and because we have water, we have life. And so things got really big and interesting on our planet in the oceans only around 400 million years ago. We started to see the rise and diversification of the first jawed vertebrates, which included the sharks. And so these two very bizarre looking prehistoric sharks were some that gave rise to the diversity of sharks that we see today. And this is Stegoacanthidae, the one that has that large dorsal fin that looks like an ironing board, and Heliocoprion with that jaw that looks like it has a whirling saw inside. Shark teeth are modified scales, and so that looks like a circular saw of teeth. I'll show you some other shark teeth in just a few minutes. But remember, this is all way before the time of the dinosaurs, We know dinosaurs arose around 200 million years ago, but we don't have dinosaurs on the planet anymore. And we think a large meteor came and changed conditions on Earth so much so that we no longer have dinosaurs. But remember, sharks were here. So the story of the shark is really a story of survival. They have lived through 5 mass extinction events. So they are survivors. And they are closely related to animals called skates and rays. And their shared characteristic is that they have skeletons on the inside, just like you and I do, but their skeletons are made of cartilage. And so that's the stuff at the end of your nose and in your earlobes. It's very flexible and bendable. And so because sharks and rays have been on the planet so long, they have moved into nearly every aquatic habitat on the planet. From the brightly lit coral reefs, we see reef sharks, to the very muddy waters of the Amazon. I've been able to study polka dot stingrays like this that live in muddy waters all throughout the Amazonian basin, to sharks like this Greenland shark that lives under ice in the polar regions. And new research is telling us these animals may live upwards of 200 years. They might be one of the longest lived vertebrates on Earth. And then we have sharks like this frilled shark that live in the deep ocean where sunlight may not even be able to penetrate. And notice the strange tooth shapes and formations in this frilled shark, showing us really something very special about the way it feeds. We learn a lot about sharks and their shape of their teeth. It gives us clues as to what they're eating. So when we study sharks, it's critical to understand that there are over 500 different shark species, all with unique adaptations that suit them for their specific niche or habitat. So things that differ are their body colors, their body shapes, the way they reproduce, the way that they swim through the water. So all of these adaptations are unique in the over 500 different species swimming in the ocean today. And so now what I want to do is take you on a journey with me to look at some species before we talk about the hammerhead, some of which you probably know and some maybe you don't. So this is the biggest shark in the ocean. This is the whale shark. It can be almost the size of a school bus. They're enormous. They are the largest fish in the ocean. And you can see here they're huge. They've got beautiful markings all over their body. And they actually eat very small, nearly microscopic plants and animals in the water. So you can see a whale shark here swimming in very green water that's full of phytoplankton, and that's what it's eating. And so this is actually me and my 8-year-old son swimming next to this whale shark, and I do that because whale sharks are totally harmless. They are just simply eating small plants and animals called plankton. So think about that. The smallest part of the food chain is creating the largest bodies in the ocean, and that tells us a lot about energy transformation and uptake. So to go from the biggest to the smallest, this shark could fit in the palm of your hand. It's called the Dwarf Lanternshark. It's a deep sea shark. It's quite small. And some of these species, like the velvet belly lantern shark, actually glows in the dark. So this is a camouflage strategy that this shark employs. So it takes chemicals inside of its body and creates light called bioluminescence. And so it does that to blend into the downwelling light as a form of camouflage. Pretty amazing. The velvet belly lantern shark. And then did you know that there are some sharks that can walk on land? This is the Epaulette shark. It lives in northern Australia, and it actually uses its pectoral fins and pelvic fins to do what we call punting. It can walk on the reef. It's incredible. And this shark can stay out of the water for extended periods of time, upwards of over 30 minutes. It will be able to survive out of the water. So this is truly a remarkable adaptation that allows this shark to hunt in some of the small pools, tidal pools, during low tide and still be able to get back out to the ocean. All right, so this is another really interesting shark. It's a real shark. It's the Goblin Shark. So it has this elongate snout called a rostrum, and it's believed the rostrum helps the goblin shark as it's hunting for food. And as you see the goblin shark from the front, it's not much prettier. It's probably the ugliest shark in the ocean. But it has these needle-like teeth that are pointed back, and this really allows the goblin shark to get prey or food into its mouth, and that is probably not going to make it back out because those teeth are pointed inward. But the weirdness doesn't end with the snout and the teeth of the goblin shark. It has one other thing. It can actually protrude its jaws out to help it capture its food. So look at this video of a goblin shark, and as it bumps into a diver's arm, actually, it protrudes out its jaws. And again, this is a special adaptation that allows the goblin shark to really grab onto prey. It lives in the deep ocean. It may bump into something once or twice a week, so it really needs to have the ability to capture prey. And it does that with this really interesting adaptation with its jaw. Okay, so to have a shark with this long rostrum this way, like the goblin shark, to then having a shark that has its head stretched out this way, we come to the hammerhead sharks. So there are several things you may not know about hammerheads that are amazing. They are the most recent evolved sharks in the ocean. Only around 20 million years ago, we started to see fossil evidence of the rise of hammerheads. And you might not also know that there are many different hammerhead species, some of which have just been recently discovered. So we are still discovering new shark species all the time. Again, we've only explored about 5% of our ocean, so much is unknown and still waiting for discovery. So the hammerheads are unique because of the strange head shape, as you can see here. And these many species that we see have a gradation of head expansion. So you can see that here with these drawings of the head. So some of the hammerheads, like the bonnet head, almost looks like a regular shark. Its head is just slightly expanded. Then in the middle, we have the scalloped hammerhead, who's kind of the hammerhead-looking hammerhead. And then down on the bottom is a whole nother genus called Eusphyroblachii, the winghead shark. This one is very strange. This is what it looks like, and it doesn't get very large, only about 1 meter to 1.5 meters in length, but its head is about half the total body length. So it looks literally like a swimming boomerang. And it lives in northern Australia and Indonesia. So when we look at the hammerhead head, there's a couple of things that are really interesting. So think about that skull has really been stretched out and expanded, and so many of the structures in the head have moved as compared to regular sharks. So things like their eyes, their nasal cavity or their nares have been placed on the ends of the head as well. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, but these are the olfactory canals right here that run almost the whole length of the head. So imagine that's almost like your nasal canal. So imagine the sense of smell that a hammerhead must have. And those eyes right here on the end are set on the side of the head as well. And you wonder, what does that do to the shark's ability to see? So this is an X-ray of a winghead shark here. You can see that expanded head, and then you can see going all the way down the body, the vertebrae. A pretty incredible looking animal for sure. And again, I was able to hunt down these sharks trying to study them and was never able to get a live one. So I ended up having to work on ones from a museum, but I got to see some and they were truly incredible. So again, what does the head shape mean or do for hammerhead sharks? Is it help them? Does it hurt them? Does it even matter at all? Well, this has been a question that I've asked along with other scientists to try to figure that out. And so there are a couple of different ideas or hypotheses about how the hammerhead head helps the shark or why it may be useful. And the first one is that it is hydrodynamic. Just like you say aerodynamic wings on an airplane, well, a head shape in the water can be hydrodynamic. So it can cut through the water with the greatest of ease. And so in this airplane, you see the wings on the front, that's a canard aircraft. And so similarly, the hammerhead head does cut through the water and allow the shark to be very hydrodynamic. So it cuts through the water quite easily. Secondly, hammerhead sharks are quite maneuverable. So using that head to cut through the water and turn and spin, they are quite maneuverable. And that is an idea that is supported through research. Another idea that has been put forward is that hammerheads, the larger ones, like the scalloped and great hammerhead, will actually pin down stingrays to the seafloor with their head so that they can then bite the wings of the stingrays. And this has been seen in the wild several times. So this is a hypothesis that is supported, but remember, not all hammerheads are large and eat stingray. So not all hammerheads use their heads to prey, to pin down prey. And then one of the things that I was truly fascinated with is, again, with that stretched out head, moving a lot of sensory systems around, what does that do to the way that the shark experiences its world? And so I've spent many years trying to figure this out. What does it do for that hammerhead shark? And again, looking at the eyes, looking at that olfactory canal, the sense of smell, how has that shifted in a hammerhead shark? So one of the questions that I got to ask in my research is, what do hammerheads see around their heads with those eyes seemingly pointing straight out? Can they even see straight ahead as they're swimming through the ocean? You would think that they wouldn't. And as funny as it sounds, scientists have been arguing about this for literally hundreds of years. And so we decided, let's go ahead and test this. Let's find out what the hammerhead's visual fields are around their head, just to see if they can even see straight ahead. So we tested the visual fields of several different shark species, many individuals of each of these species, just to get an understanding of what their visual fields were. So how do you test a shark's vision? They can't talk. They can't tell you what they're seeing. So how do you do it? Well, first, you have to go into the field to catch the sharks. And so that's what we did. Sometimes we'd catch them at night. Sometimes we'd catch them during the day. And then we would take them back to our holding pens where they would acclimate. And then we would actually put them through our experimental trials. And the way that you're able to test shark's vision is similar to how you do it with a human. Every eye, whether it's a shark or a human, is really an electrical organ. And as light hits the eye, it sends a signal to the brain for processing as vision. And so we were able to put a wire onto the eye of the shark as we shined light on it, and we were able to detect the signal, whether the shark was seeing or not. And that's called an electroretinogram. And that's exactly what we did at all different places around the head of the shark, just to see if they were able to see. And what we found was amazing and quite surprising. And that's why science is so neat. We were able to discover that the hammerheads do have binocular vision. They can see straight ahead, but the overlaps of each eye's visual field was much larger in the hammerheads than it was in regular normal sharks. And that was a really big surprise. And so what that tells us, the research showed that we do have binocular overlaps in the hammerheads, and those overlaps were 3 to 4 times bigger than normal sharks. So a great finding and truly surprising. But one of the other things that we discovered in our research was that all of the sharks have a triangular blind spot right in front of their head. So almost as if when you put your finger right on the top of your nose, you can't really see it well. Well, the same held for the sharks. They have a kind of a visual blind spot right there. And the question is, well, what do? They don't have hands when they try to catch food. What do they do as they experience this void of vision right in front of their head? And so we started to think about it. There is another sensory system that the sharks have. It's a very close range sense. It's called electroreception. So all sharks and rays and skates have the ability to detect living things underwater by their electric signal. And so they use this system, the electrosensory system, to detect living things underwater. So all of those little peppery black dots on that great white shark snout are jelly-filled canals that allow that shark to detect living things underwater. And you can see it here as well on the business end of a hammerhead head. And you can see that pattern all underneath that side of the head. Those are the electroreceptors. All right, and so we started to think about whether or not sharks are using their electrosensory system to detect food in that void where there is no vision. And when we actually tested, and let me fast forward this just for a second here, what we did is we tested whether or not sharks can detect those weak electric fields. So we actually used batteries to create our own electric field underwater, and the sharks would come in and actually bite that electric field, thinking it was a prey item like a crab or a fish. So what we were looking at is how far out does that detection distance go? And what we found was amazing. So you can see here a shark is just about to go in and start biting on that electricity, that electric field that we generated for them. So you can see right there, the hammerhead is going in and hitting that generated electric field by us. All right, and so what we found is when we looked at that distance that the sharks were able to detect prey items, it really just fit perfectly with where that blind spot area extended into. So, you know, really what we found is that sharks are perfect predators. All of their sensory systems are working in combination to help them be efficient predators, which makes sense because they've been on the earth for so many millions of years, perfecting that balance between the use of those two systems. So you might think to yourself, well, how does this knowledge help us? Why do we need to know these things about animals, and what does it really mean? Well, truthfully right now, sharks have a lot more to fear from us than we do from them. Sharks, many species of sharks, are in decline globally, and really the main reason is we're taking too many sharks out of the ocean faster than they can replace themselves. And this includes the hammerhead sharks. Scalloped hammerhead sharks, over the many years that I have been studying them, have actually become an endangered species. This means that they have the potential to decline to the point of becoming extinct over time, which is a very troubling thing. And so today I work with other researchers in different parts of the world to try to reverse the decline of these important shark species. And that includes friends down in Costa Rica, Mission Tiburon, who are tagging and tracking young scalloped hammerheads in southern Costa Rica. And I've worked with them to help tag the sharks to try to find out where they're going and ways to protect them. And at the end of our tagging sessions, we let our sharks go and try to learn just a little bit more about them. We also do a lot of education with local students to try to help them understand how special sharks are and how they really are a very important part of our healthy ecosystem in the ocean. So again, what can you do? Well, you can support different organizations that try to promote shark conservation. There are many organizations out there that could use your help and your support. And also talking to people you know, letting them know about sharks and letting them know what's happening with shark populations is a really big part of it. So thank you for your attention. I just want to take a few minutes now to show you a couple of things here, which I think you might find interesting. So this is the outside of a great white shark. So that's what the outside looks like, but I want to share with you the inside of the shark. So this is the internal anatomy of the great white shark, which is pretty neat. And you can see here, these are the jaws, and this is the skull, and this is the backbone, the vertebrae. And then these are the gills. So that's how the shark is able to pull oxygen out of the water. And then lastly, this big purple-like structure that takes up a big part of the shark's body is its liver. And that liver secretes an oil called squalene, and it's very lightweight, and it actually helps the shark float. There is gravity in water, and so big sharks that weigh thousands of pounds have oil in their livers that help them to go ahead and continue to swim without a lot of effort. So that's one really interesting thing. And then I'd like to share with you something else. So many of you probably know what kind of shark this is. I can give you a hint. It's got stripes on the side of its body. And so the stripes give us a hint that it's a tiger shark. And the reason I want to share that with you is because I want to let you see this. This is the jaw of a real tiger shark. And what I want to show you are its teeth. So most shark teeth are triangular or almost needle-like we saw in the goblin shark. But this tooth is very special and very unique because it is shaped like a saw and a knife in combination. And this allows the tiger shark to eat pretty much whatever it wants to. In fact, sadly, one of its favorite foods is sea turtles. And so it can really pierce the shells and saw into the shells if it wants to for that food. But one of the things I wanted to show you up close is that shark teeth are modified scales. And so they're almost like a conveyor belt of teeth on the back. And so over a lifetime, sharks are continually pushing their teeth forward and shedding teeth or losing teeth so that they always have a sharp set on hand. And so over a lifetime, a shark might have 20,000 teeth. So this is another jaw from a sandbar shark. And you can see those teeth are very triangular, kind of what you would expect. But you can really see that conveyor belt here. And again, sharks' teeth are modified scales, just like fish scales. And so you can see what that looks like on the inside. And that's why sharks shed so many teeth and will always have a sharp set of teeth ready to go. And then lastly, I want to share this with you. This is the tooth of a shark that's no longer with us. Probably a lot of you know who this is. This is Carcharodon megalodon. This is a shark that went extinct relatively recently in geological terms, probably a few million years ago. This shark used to eat whales. And new research is telling us it may have been closely related to the mako shark, which looks a little bit like a great white shark. And we're not sure exactly why this species went extinct, but we think conditions changed enough that this shark could no longer survive. So again, it's fascinating to look back in the fossil record and see who used to be on our planet not that long ago. Just like we learn about dinosaurs through the fossil record, we learn about ancient sharks that are no longer here as well. And you know, it takes me to the point of hoping that the sharks that we have in our ocean today have a chance to survive. Right now, many shark species, as I mentioned, are fighting for their very survival. And so I think it's important for us to understand that sharks have an important role to play in the ecosystem and that they do deserve our protection. So again, thank you so much for participating in our webinar today. I hope you learned a little bit about sharks that you didn't know before. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day. If you have any questions at all, please email us at any time. We'll be happy to get back to you as soon as we can to answer your questions. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.